everyone. Welcome to Wonderful Garbage. I am your host, Angela. Oh, it is so good to be back with you guys. I hope you're enjoying listening to my voice. Y'all, how is Christmas next week already? I can't handle it. I'm not ready. I've bought 2 things. Yeah. So, I'll be the crazy person at the store this weekend, trying to find whatever I can, or maybe just getting a bunch of gift cards for people, because, like, at the end of the day, I'm at that stage now, too, like, I don't need any more shit. I don't need trinkets. I don't need little godly goopy things. But yeah, Christmas is next week. It's wild. Alright, next week's podcast, I'm gonna do just a 2024 pop culture recap. So if you follow me on Instagram, I'm going to be asking you guys for some of your favorite pop culture moments or favorite things that happened in the Bravo universe this year. So look out for that. And that's what next week's episode is going to be. Just a recap of the year and a little celebration. I might even have a little drink or two while I podcast. We'll see how that goes. And then I won't do a Bravo TV recap next week. Beverly Hills is on a break. I think there might be another one too that'll be off. So no recap next week of my Bravo things, just a recap of the year. So if you follow me on Instagram, check that out. I'll be posting and getting some of your favorite pop culture things. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, go do that now. Okay, fantasy football update real quick because I know you're dying to know. I made the playoffs, or continued in the playoffs in one of my leagues. I lost in the other one that I was in last week. So, yeah, round 2 of playoffs, baby. Let's go. Also, real quick, if you have Netflix, you need to watch No Good Deed with Lisa Kudrow, Ray Romano, and, like, everybody else you've ever seen in TV forever. This cast is stacked, and it's about a couple that is selling their house, and then it's stories of people who want to buy the house, and you're like, okay, how can they even make that like a show? Like, it's just random people coming in that are wanting to buy a house, but oh my goodness, it is so good. It's a great binge on Netflix if you have some time. It's a good like holiday binge too. It has nothing to do with the holiday season, but it's just a really good show. So if you have the time, binge No Good Deed. All right. This episode is going to be stacked. There are so many things happening in the pop culture and Bravo universe. I'm going to do my best to capture everything that wowed me this week, and I hope it wowed you too. So let's get into our pop culture recap. I finally watched Paris and Nicole's 3-part limited series, The Encore. It's on Peacock. Check it out if you have it. It is their 20-year reunion from starting The Simple Life. It's also narrated by Alan Cumming, which he also hosts the Traitors show. And so I just kept thinking about Traitors every time he was narrating something. But Paris and Nicole are back together to celebrate 20 years since their iconic Simple Life. So they do a couple things throughout the show. Paris said that, like, she has gone back and watched episodes, but Nicole says she hasn't. But she's like, now that, like, you know, we're at 20 years, like, maybe I'll go back and watch something. They've been friends since they were 2 years old, which I absolutely love because you know it's just a super strong friendship. They've been through so many things. They were on Call Her Daddy a couple weeks ago and they talked about like doing the show, how big it got. And then there was a bit in their friendship where they didn't talk because there was just so much out there in the media. And it kind of pit them against or it did pit them against each other. And then, you know, they just had their little friend break, as all friends do. Now they're back together, better than ever. And they want to make their hit song, Sanasa, into an opera. This is something that they wrote when they were like 7 years old. And it's just literally repeating the word Sanasa over and over again and then screaming it at the end. So they actually go back, they take a little quick trip back to Arkansas, which was one of the states that they went and visited in the Simple Life. They went to see the family that they stayed with. They like lived with them for a month while they were there. And the family said, yeah, you can come visit, but we just don't want to film, which they must have been traumatized from filming The Simple Life. If they're like, we're not even going to give you 10 minutes on screen, like, we're good. But they go back to other little places in Alton that they had like checked out. The mayor of the city is still the mayor, so they go and see her. They go to like the local Walmart and go buy a bunch of stuff for the people that they used to like work for or hang out with and like give them presents. And it's so funny because Paris Hilton's cookware line is sold at Walmart. So she's like, I'm gonna buy them all of my cookware stuff. And I'm just gonna like self promote while I go do these things. And it was really funny. But they go to like the local Gator, the bar, the Gator Head, I think it was called. And they see some of the people from back then. They go and see like the farmer that they used to work with, work loosely, and like one of the little like store owners that they used to work for. And so it was really, really sweet. So they go back to LA to prep for their opera. They're giving themselves 3 weeks to do it. They meet with a bunch of people like an opera producer and a composer and a vocal coach. It was really funny. The opera producer was like, "No, I'm not going to help you guys out with this project." They kind of don't let the composer say no to helping out. It really seemed like it was going to be a shit show, and yeah, it kind of looked, it looked really like campy, kind of cute. They hired like musicians and singers and actors and all these things to make this like big production. And they hired two child actors to play them when they were younger. And the little girl that they hired to play Paris is literally a mini Paris. It is so freaking cute and wild how much like Paris energy she has, and she's like 7 years old. But it was really cute. Oh, and they go back and work at Sonic, and they're like in the kitchen, like trying to make shit, and all I can think of is like health code violations all over the place. But a little cute binge again. Watched No Good Deed. Really, really great. And then if you want something to watch while you're just like mindless scrolling, put this on in the background. It was super cute. Okay, let's talk about the Sydney Sweeney clapback to all of the haters out there that are immature, insecure, little doo-doo heads. I'm gonna try my best not to cuss because maybe not everybody likes my cussing. I do have the mouth of a sailor, and I will do my best to not bring that out. But I love a good cuss word. But anyways, okay. So Sydney Sweeney, like some pictures were posted of her in a bikini. Like Sydney Sweeney is gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous girly. Some pictures were posted of her in a bikini, and the internet went wild, of course, talking crap about her body. So Sydney is currently like she's filming a movie where she plays a female boxer. And she has been training, she's bulked, like she has muscles, she has guns, like girl is looking stacked, but still like gorge. So Sydney posts a reel on Instagram, and it's all of these clips of comments that people have made about her body, and then the end of the video is her training for this role, like lifting tires, doing the punch bag that they do like up in the air, like practicing in the ring, and you're like, oh my goodness. Okay, so some people were like, oh my goodness, these are so unflattering. She's like catfishing us. And at first I was like, these men are insecure craptards. But then I started looking, and like usernames were also women. Women, do better. Don't succumb to talking crap and putting other women down. We're all we have. We know this. It's so hard to get men to stand up for us. Do better, women. Don't talk shit about other people's bodies. And I know I watch Bravo and I love Bravo, and sometimes I do talk about the plastic surgery and the fillers and the Botox and the way that people will be looking sometimes. I will do better. But this was trash. Some people were saying, oh, she's a butterface. Like, let's be real here. That body isn't incredible. Someone even said, is she playing the live action role of Miss Piggy? And I'm hoping all of these are just bots, because, like, why are people absolutely disgusting out there? But the comment section did restore my faith a little bit. I did see a comment that said, every time a man makes a pointless comment about a woman's body, his hairline recedes a little more. And I love that. That should be on a bumper sticker. Yeah. Every time you say some shit, your hairline recedes. Or like, you lose an inch, you know where. Or like, your toes grow weird. I don't know. But screw these people talking crap. There was also some comments saying, like, the men that are making these comments to you would never have a chance with you. And again, it's their insecurities, because they're going to hide behind a keyboard and talk some crap. Anyways, the internet's vile and Sydney Sweeney is wonderful. The Traitors Season 3 trailer came out. So we see some of the cast in the castle. We see them in their, like, traitor garment gowns with their hoods and everything. They look hella creepy. We get a little line from Bob, the drag queen. He says, to get the job done, I'll stab you in the back. I have a thirst for blood. Then we get the person that I am the most excited to see on the show, Dorinda Medley from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Nope, New Housewives of New York. She says that she wants to leave the queen of this castle. Now, there was some drama when this show was first filming. Lindsay Hubbard from Summer House, another show on Bravo, was supposed to be on Traitors. Then it came out, supposedly rumors that she was pregnant. And allegedly, Dorinda was the person who had told production that Lindsay was pregnant and could no longer film the show. So Lindsay got replaced by another one of her castmates, Sierra. Lindsay was pregnant. She just gave birth. But it's pretty crappy that it was outed by somebody else. I'm sure Lindsay wanted to stay as long as she could to make that coin, because it's such a popular show. Literally won an Emmy last year or earlier this year. So, yeah. We see a lot of, like, Fear Factor type games. There's snakes and bugs, and, you know, there was like comments about the games from last season, mainly from myself. No, I'm just kidding. That, like, they didn't make any sense to the game, right? They didn't, like, tie into it, since the game is such of, like, a social, like, mind fuck. I had to say the F word to go with the mind fuck. You know, it just flows well. And, like, being deceitful and shady and things like that. Sometimes it's, like, hard to make these games kind of flow with that theme as well, when a lot of this is them all talking to each other and trying to figure out who the traitors are. But Chanel Ayan from Real Housewives of Dubai, she's like, this game is torturous. I don't know how she's gonna do. I feel like she can get scrappy when she needs to. I don't know. I'm interested to see her too. And then Tom Sandoval from Vanderpump Rules. I really hope, again, he's just eliminated the first night, so he's not on our screens anymore. But he's like, finally people are taking me seriously. And I'm like, I highly doubt that. They probably are just trying to play you. And if Tom becomes a traitor, I'm going to be pissed. I'm also really excited to see Dolores Catania from The Real Housewives of New Jersey, because girl has a mouth on her. Don't mess with her. I want her and Dorinda to just tag team and eviscerate people. But the trailer looks really good. It's on my TikTok. and my Instagram if you want to go check it out. But season 3 of Traitors premieres on January 9th on Peacock. All right, let's talk a little bit about this week's Call Her Daddy episode. Trinity Rodman was on it, who is the daughter of Dennis Rodman. Trinity, she's a badass. She is a gold medalist, Olympic gold medalist soccer player. She was the youngest soccer player to be drafted into the U.S. women's team, which is amazing. So yeah, Olympic gold medalist, like amazing athlete. The episode really talks, well, some of it does talk about soccer because Alex used to play soccer, so they bonded over that. But it also just talks a lot about Trinity's relationship with her dad, or lack thereof. She never really talked about it before, but wanted to be real about it. You know, she's like she's older, she's an adult, her brother's older as well. Like, now seemed like it was a good time to share her experience of what it was like growing up as the child of Dennis Rodman. She was saying he's more of just really a person to her and not really a dad because he was never really around. And when he was around, it was like for show or not really any sort of bonding, loving type of way. She said that her parents split when she was younger, and before the split things were okay, like money wise. He would give them money, help keep them afloat. They had money to go and do stuff, so they weren't living like paycheck to paycheck or anything. They tried living with him in his house when they were younger, but it was just nothing but parties, him bringing in random women all the time, and her mom was just like, no, we can't do this. Like, this isn't safe. It's not good for our kids to be around this. So they got divorced, and Trinity says after the divorce, he really just stopped giving them money, stopped checking in on them. They lived in an SUV for a little bit. They lived in motels, which she said, you know, when you're younger, you think it's cool to live in a motel because you have a pool. Her and her brother would go and make waffles in the waffle machine, which 100%. It was so much fun to like stay at a hotel when you're younger because like you have all these amenities and it seems really, really cool. But she's like, now looking back on it, it was like, oh, she didn't realize how bad it was then when she was a kid. As she grew up and she went to a private school, she 100% was like, oh, okay. There are different things going on here, you know? She talks about just how there was like athletic pressure from being Dennis Rodman's daughter, but that it's two different sports, so they couldn't like compare it as much. But she does feel bad for her brother, who also plays basketball, or who plays basketball, and is just like constantly compared to his dad, and then not having that relationship that's like supportive relationship. Like, she compared it to LeBron and his son Bronny, how they're able to play together and like the relationship and connection that they have. She really wished that her brother would have that with their dad, but just absolutely not. Um, you know, it's just hard. She said it was just hard growing up, almost kind of being used as a pawn sometimes, like when he had his jersey retirement for the Bulls, him bringing the kids there and showing them off and acting like he's this like doting father. And then same kind of thing of him like randomly showing up to a soccer game when she hadn't talked to him in months and really seen him in a couple years, and kind of was making it about him type thing. And just, she's old enough to understand who he is and what he does, but still continues to talk to him when he calls because she just would hate it if something happened to him and she missed a call or chose not to answer, and then it would be the last time that she talked to her father. So it was a really great interview. All right. Kristin Cavallari said on her podcast earlier this week, she talks about a home invasion that happened when her ex-husband and their kids were in the Bahamas back in 2020. So they were traveling, they were on a trip, COVID happened, Then they had to stay in the Bahamas for like a month. COVID? You heard of it? You remember that time? So she says they were staying at this house in the Bahamas. The house's AC unit broke. So they called somebody to fix it. And, they had like all their stuff laying out. They didn't really think too much of it. She had jewelry laying out. Everything was fine. AC was fixed. They go about their day, go to bed. She's sleeping in the room with one of her sons. And all of a sudden she wakes up. Like she just has like this instinct. She wakes up and she sees somebody crawling on the floor in all black. Ski mask, long jacket, pants, like the whole thing. And she said she didn't yell because her son was right there and she didn't want to wake him up. But she was able to like communicate to the guy and be like, hey, no, like my son's in here, like we'll give you whatever you want, like we'll give you all the cash. And she ended up going and was able to wake up her ex-husband. He ended up taking a backpack that was filled with cash. She said they ended up getting the cash back. And then they found out that it was the AC guy that was in their house earlier, which was wild. So she says that she hasn't told the kids about it because they're still young. Maybe it's something she'll tell them when they're adults, but she doesn't just want them to be frightened about anything, right? But I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope like none of their friends' parents listen to the show or like Google anything about their mom, because then this is gonna come up, right? Like, I think one of the kids is like a preteen, so like it might be out there. They're like gonna know, but it was wild. That's crazy. Just like stories like that make me never want to travel, but like traveling's fun. But like you just never know. I mean, you can get broken into at your own home too. You just never know who you're around, who you're walking by. I was talking about this with my husband the other day when we were like at World Market. I was like, we don't even know if there's like spies in here or like hitmen or like right when you're at the grocery store, like you have no idea who you're by. It's insane. And we just go about our day like everything's good. And I could literally be checking out behind a murderer. Do y'all ever think about that? Or is that just me? Is that me just being dark? Okay, but wild story. Just don't trust people. Basically, moral of this story is don't trust anybody. Okay. Daddy Yankee, y'all. Have you seen this drama? Okay. Daddy Yankee is getting divorced from his wife of almost 30 years. Props to them for keeping it together as long as they did, but who knows how good those years actually were, because she has taken out $100 million from companies that they both like own and oversee, all without his authorization. So his wife was the CEO of, they had 2 record labels, and his wife was the CEO of them. And then her sister was like the secretary, treasurer of them as well. So they both have access to the money, have had access to the money for a long time, know all about the business dealings and everything because they are a part of the business. So they separate. And around that time, he tells his wife that your authority, anything that has to do with our business dealings, your authority is revoked, and warned that they couldn't carry out any more transactions. But somehow they were still able to take $80 million from one account and 20 from the other. Okay. Daddy Yankee was big back in the day, right? But I didn't know homie just had like $100 million in the bank. Wild. He does have 2 record labels. I didn't look to see like how many artists were signed and things, but obviously enough. And I'm sure he invested in all kinds of things. It was back in the early 2000s. He's probably like some tech investor or something. I don't know, but wild. also I think what contributed to all that money, his wife hired like a third party company to help them sell his music catalog. But he's coming out and saying like he doesn't even know all the details of it. He doesn't know like the transaction information from it, which is also really wild. Hella messy, y'all. hella messy. And I just hope she like doesn't go to jail, cuz that would be some shit, you know? Maybe they can agree to like give some money back. Who knows? I can't. How were they able to take the money out even though you said their access was revoked? Did they just do it before it was done being processed? You feel like that would be an immediate thing. Like, I'm revoking your access. They go tell someone, like a manager or the president of whatever. I don't know. Like, hey, we're going to revoke her access. Like, how? I don't know. Messy, messy, messy. Okay. We got an update about the whole Hannah Kobayashi missing Hawaiian woman scandal thing that happened. I've talked about it in the past couple podcast episodes, so I just thought we'd talk about it here. So in a statement provided from People magazine, her aunt has confirmed that Hannah is back in the U.S. She said, on December 15th, I crossed the border back to the United States. My focus is now on my healing, my peace, and my creativity. I am deeply grateful to my family and everyone who has shown me kindness and compassion during this time. I was unaware of everything that was happening in the media because she didn't have a phone. She turned off her phone and either left it, remember, at the LAX airport, or just threw it away. Who knows? But she didn't have a phone from what we know. So she had no idea that like people were out there looking for her, that her dad had come from Hawaii to California, which is still fucking fishy that he ended up dying, committing suicide. What's happening? She says, I'm still processing it all. I kindly ask for respect for myself, my family, and my loved ones as I navigate through this challenging time. Thank you all for understanding. It's like, did she have a midlife crisis? Why? Why didn't she just go to New York like she had planned? Why did she go to Mexico? Like, who was she meeting up with, right? It just really seems like she was meeting up with somebody. It's just the craziest story. I'm so glad she's alive and didn't get trafficked or anything, because a woman traveling by themselves is never safe. So, just wild. But, wouldn't be surprised if something more came out from this, but also wouldn't be surprised if it stayed a secret forever. Who knows? All right, I'm going to end this pop culture recap with all of the Grace O'Malley and Brianna drama, because the drama is drama-ing. Okay, are we ready for the Barstool Sports drama? Podcast drama? So, Grace and Brianna, they've been best friends since high school, and Brianna started this podcast through Barstool called Plan Bri Uncut. And then later on, her best friend Grace joined. The podcast grew. It was actually on Spotify's Wrapped list of like up and coming content creator podcasts. Like, it has grown, their following has grown, and kind of like their friendship became the focus of their podcast and a focus of their lifestyle, right? They were influencers, all those things. They were doing podcast tour. Grace, actually, she's always wanted to do comedy, so now she is a full-on comedian under the umbrella of Whitney Cummings. I love Whitney Cummings. I've been a fan of hers since forever. Whitney has like taken Grace under her wing now more than ever, actually. Whitney posted a TikTok the other day and was like, does Barstools have an HR department? Like, what is going on? Do I need to be the HR department? Because what is happening over here is not okay. But, alright, let's get back to the drama. So Brianna was dating this country singer, Zach Bryan. We talked about it before. Turned out to be a total douche. Wanted to give Brianna $12 million to sign an NDA. Horrible relationship. And it seemed like some of that relationship drama was seeping into Bri and Grace's friendship. Like, Zach was like isolating Bri. There were some videos from over the summer of a birthday hangout, and Zach was apparently like yelling at the friends, and so rumors and rockiness of their friendship started earlier this year. Just like they weren't hanging out as much. Again, Bri was always with Zach. She was going on tour with him. I followed her for a little bit on Instagram, and yeah, just like she was always with Zach, and then Grace was like just doing her own thing. Bri and Zach break up, and Bri is thrusted, or she really just like thrusts herself into the headlines of the breakup. She was blindsided that Zach went ahead and put it all out online. They had agreed to like take a week and then put out a joint statement. He just went out and did it. He was cheating on her, manipulation, like all that stuff. So like now that Bri and Zach weren't together, it was like, okay, maybe things are going to get better with her and Grace. They can focus more on the podcast now that like that negativity is out of Bri's life. So their last podcast episode was back in mid-October. And I watched a little bit on Reddit. Thank you, the Reddit gods, for always having the great, great information. But their last episode, Grace is going to Atlantic City for a comedy show. And they talk about the last time that they were there together, which was about 10 years ago. They were 16, and Grace was like, something really bad happened to me there. Kind of like, I don't want to talk about it, but I'm never going to let that happen to me again. But what happened to her shaped her as a woman. And she will never be forced or coerced to do anything like that again. Anything that she doesn't want to do. And you're like, wow. Like, she was assaulted. Bri goes on to say that, well, just like nobody knows what they're doing when they're 16. Anyone out there who's young, don't hang out with older men. Stick with your age group. Men, if you want, go hang out with other 16-year-olds, which is weird. Kind of making light of what happened to her best friend. Grace chimes in and is like, but it's not your fault, like, if something happens to you. And Bri's like, yeah, but also, like, don't be that friend that goes to the beach to do bad stuff and then gives your friends a heart attack. Like, we thought you were dead, Grace. And Grace was like, but, like, that wasn't my fault. So Bri's essentially victim shaming Grace for what happened to her when she was a minor and was taken advantage of by an older man. Screw that. Are you kidding me? And then Bri making this about her by saying like, well, you scared us by going away somewhere. We didn't know where you were. Your girl was getting taken advantage of. But yet you're the victim? And then she reminds Grace that it is exactly 10 years ago from when it happened. And Grace is like, she's like internally freaking out. And then she makes a comment like, I need to go to therapy after this, But she's like, no, next time, when I go to Atlantic City, I'm going to be patrolling the beach. I'm going to be making sure all the girls are okay. And you're like, oh my goodness, poor Grace is like trying to make a joke out of it. Because, she's traumatized, and her best friend, who was with her on that trip, is blaming her and making light of the situation. So that was their last podcast episode. Grace is still doing her comedy touring. Bri is on another podcast at Barstool with David Portnoy, who created Barstool. And then it comes out that... So... Let me do this in order. So Spotify Wrapped comes out. All these people are posting Instagram stories about Plan Bri was on their list and tagging them. So then Brianna reposts one and says like, oh man, I just, so thankful for you guys. I plan on bringing back some version of Plan Bri. Let me go back a second. I skipped a part. So Bri, and I really hope you're still listening to this. Again, I'm that Charlie Day meme of collecting all the dots. Bri started the podcast on Barstools. She asked Grace to move to New York with her. Grace said yeah. Grace didn't have a job. Bri just said, like, come hang out with me whenever, wherever. So she's like, I was, like, trying to give Grace a job. I was, like, trying to get her out there, blah, 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 blah. I even had her live on my couch with me. I was in a 1-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend. And like, I gave her my living room while I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend. I gave her that. I got her on the podcast. I got her a job at Barstools. And she's making it seem like she is the martyr in the situation, that Grace needs to be bowing down to her feet for what she has done for Grace in this moment. So, cut to now, Spotify Wrapped, people are getting tagged, they're getting tagged and stuff. Bri's coming out and saying, I plan on giving you some version of Plan Bri soon. And Grace is like, what? Turns out they had already agreed to end the podcast. And they had agreed, like, the podcast together. And they had agreed that they were going to do a joint statement. But then Bri goes and posts this. And it's like, you just did to Grace what your ex Zach did to you, you know? He blindsided you by putting your breakup out there before you guys had agreed. And now Bri's doing the same thing to Grace? What is happening, you know? Grace then took to Instagram and posted again that they had agreed to put out a joint statement about ending the podcast. Grace is like, this was my dream job and working with my best friend, but I want to be transparent about what's going on. Like, we're done. We're not doing this podcast anymore. So Bri talks about it on her other podcast show on Barstool, said that she has been quiet for the last year about stuff that has been going on. And it's like, again, you're like playing the victim, right? She was also saying that she had thought about doing solo shows again too, here and there. So she had wanted to like move Plan Bri into like another light or whatever. Also, it just really doesn't sound like Bri is taking any accountability at all. I listened to about like 10 minutes of the episode because it was just like a lot of her complaining. But she talks about how Grace hated her ex Zach from like the get-go. I'm like, yeah, she probably detected that he was a douche and didn't like him for you. Bri said that with every boyfriend that she's had, it was always her, the boyfriend, and Grace. Like, they were all friends. They would always hang out. Like, Grace would always be there with them. That's just like their best friends. That's what they did. But with Zach, it was different. They never hung out. There was one time that they did, and like a fight broke out, like they were like yelling and it wasn't good. Bri is upset that Grace never supported her online because fans could tell that like they were drifting apart. Bri was always with Zach, Grace was always doing her own thing, and people were speculating about their friendship. Bri was mad that Grace never went out online and said like, no, this isn't true, Bri and I are great. And so she felt really like offended and hurt, especially since she brought Grace into this whole world. And Bri says that Bri even said that she thought Grace didn't stand up for her because it made Grace look like a better person. Like, or maybe you guys weren't in a good place and she wasn't gonna lie about it. You wanted to make it seem like things were all good, but she hated your boyfriend. He was obviously isolating you and controlling you in a way that you couldn't see until you got out. You know, it's like when your friends start distancing themselves from you, it's like, is there something going on? Maybe be a little more aware, you know? So Bri says she ended up ending the podcast in October because it just became about people bullying her, and ended the friendship with Grace because she just didn't feel like Grace was on her side. Grace posted earlier this week that she was leaving Barstool, and guess what happened? Alex Cooper, Father Cooper from Call Her Daddy. Call Her Daddy was an OG Barstool's podcast. It was like the OG Girls podcast on Barstool that ended horribly. They left Barstool, Alex and her then co-host Sophia ended the podcast or ended their contract with Barstool due to a dispute over the actual contract, ownership rights, because it had grown exponentially at Barstool. They were making so much money and wanted to be compensated fairly for that. It didn't go well. Alex and Sophia ended up breaking up. Alex took the podcast to Spotify, $40 million deal. She now just signed a $100 million deal with SiriusXM. Wild. So Alex knows all of this. Alex was this back in the day. So Alex posts an Instagram story. And it's a screenshot of her talking. It's like the phone info, like on an iPhone, where you can see like who, like the person you called and how long you talked for. They had a 40-minute conversation the other day. And Alex posted like, you don't need to tag me anymore. I know what I gotta do. Like, I got y'all. Don't worry about it. Grace reposted it too. And you know what was announced? Grace has now signed with Alex's company, the Unwell Network. I mean, Alex for president, y'all. That girl works fast. That girl gets things done. I cannot freaking wait for this tell-all episode. We have to get a tell-all episode from Grace on Call Her Daddy. And I know a lot of that was sensitive, especially their last podcast episode that they filmed. The insensitivity from Bri on her part of what Grace went through in Atlantic City. Absolutely horrible. But fuck, I want Grace to spill some tea. Maybe just about everybody's personalities and like how they actually are versus like the trauma that she went through, you know? But yeah, Grace is gonna be on the Unwell Network. Holy moly! Oh, I love it. I follow Grace. I think she's funny. I think she's sweet. I think she's just like, she's a girly from Boston just trying to live her life. And Alex is from Boston too, or she went to college in Boston, so I love it. Do y'all love it? I love it. It's so great. I can't wait to listen to Grace's episode. I can't wait to listen to her podcast. Like, what is it going to be? I can't wait to hear what they name it. Like, it's going to be fantastic. But anywho, that is the end of this week's pop culture recap. So we have so much stuff going on with our Bravolebrities. Let's get into this week's Bravolebrity Breakdown. All right, we got a lot of stuff from our Bravolebrities this week. I'm going to start with the bad things and we will end with the good. Yeah, let's just get into it. All right, James Kennedy update. So James Kennedy has spoken out about his domestic violence arrest. He posted on Instagram, I am committed to making meaningful changes in my life. I am taking time to focus on my sobriety, personal growth, and being present for my loved ones. Navigating challenging moments is not easy, but I am determined to learn, grow, and move forward. No mention of an apology. Navigating challenging moments? You mean when you allegedly lifted your girlfriend up and threw her to the ground? Which is what she told police officers. That's on the police report from the night that it all happened. I know it's like a typical PR response where like, you don't want to say too much. You just say some bullshit and people will get over it in a couple of weeks. And it's like, you know, I'm a Bravo fan, obviously. And Bravo isn't immune to scandal. But when it's like domestic violence like this, when it's something of injuring and hurting a person, someone that you supposedly love, it's just really dark and unsettling. I really hope charges are brought against him. If he put hands on her, if he hurt her, then yeah. I think I read that they were still determining like what all happened that night, and then determining what charges should be brought against him, if any. Allie has moved out of their house. There were some pictures of it over the weekend. He was like helping her move out, but he has like rage in his eyes like he always has. And we've seen him on Vanderpump Rules. He's like an absolute hothead. People have been posting about it all over Instagram. I've posted a couple things too. I didn't post the arrest warrant the report from the night because that was just like a little too much. But a lot of other people did, and like go right ahead. It just like makes me feel icky sometimes. And I left a comment just saying like, man, it was a clip of Nick Viall saying, where's Lisa's response to this? Like, Lisa Vanderpump Rules, she hasn't said anything publicly, right? She has always kind of made excuses for James or kept him on the show even though he had shitty behavior because he made for good TV at one point. And I commented on the video and I was like, I actually agree with Nick Viall for once, LOL. Also, like, another podcaster out there, like, really getting all the tea. But I said, I agree. Like, I really hope that Lisa has at least reached out to Allie on her own, right? Like, you don't always have to put it out on social media, especially something as sensitive as this. But, I was just saying, I really hope Lisa has at least reached out to Allie, because Allie was a part of her show. Yes, just only for the last couple of years, but was with James, who really gave Lisa a lot of shit for the last 7 years, and somebody commented on my comment saying, why is it Lisa's responsibility to reach out to Jay or to reach out to Allie? And I was like, because it's the nice thing to do? She just got assaulted? Like, what? And the person responded, they were like, okay, yeah, well, like, you got a point. Why are we what? No, put your energy towards something else, please. Okay, so also, with all the James Kennedy stuff, there was another article that came out yesterday from Page 6. And it says that Bravo had investigated a claim that James was violent with a woman a year before his arrest. Sources tell Page 6 that in the fall of 2023, a whistleblower who is a production insider alerted Evolution Media, which is their production company that makes all the shows for Bravo, or makes the show for Bravo. They alerted the production company with a bunch of claims about James that had either been like floating around behind the scenes of the show, had been hinted at publicly, or even mentioned during tapings of the show. So y'all, if claims were made on the show and they edited it out and continued to have him be one of the faces of Vanderpump Rules, what are we doing, Bravo? The article goes on to say, among the claims, they said, which have not been independently substantiated by Page 6, that he attacked more than one woman and he attacked more than one woman that he had a sexual relationship with. Excuse me. I'm like, my head's spinning. Apparently Bravo hired an independent attorney to investigate the claims, but there's no word on what had been found in that investigation. Sources tell Page 6 that the whistleblower was horrified when James appeared at the network's live fan convention BravoCon with the other cast members while the investigation was still underway. They were particularly sickened they had James sing a song, "You Can Suddenly Become the Number One Guy in the Group," which was like the joke about Jax, being number one guy in the group. the pecking order of the guys on the show. And they gave him a goofy award for colloquial excellence. And I hate to think that Bravo would turn the other cheek on violence. I mean, they have let someone who was in prison back on the show. It was not her fault, but she went to jail, was back on the show. You know, they've had people, I'm like blanking, but they've had people with criminal things. I mean, Shannon with her DUI, Karen from Potomac with her DUI, which we're going to get to next. You know, and Bravo it's a trash TV network that gives us shows that are filled with drama, feuds, heavy drinking. But I would just really, really hate if Bravo turned the other cheek with the claims against James in order to continue to promote a show. And where are we with Vanderpump Rules? Oh, that's right. You fired everybody and now you're going to reboot it. So it's just upsetting. I hope James just like goes away forever and gets the help he needs and like we don't see him ever again. Or charges are brought against him. Who knows? It's just, it's really, really sad. Okay, let's get into Karen Huger's DUI trial and verdict that happened yesterday. So in my Bravo TV recaps, if you listen to them or if you watch The Real Housewives of Potomac, you know that Karen Huger, who has been on the show since the beginning, had a DUI about a month before filming. And so we see her throughout the season so far saying, you know, she can't really talk a lot about it. We understand it's annoying, but we understand because, you know, she's going to trial. We see a clip of her getting an extension on her trial date, which the lawyer says is what they wanted because they still want to help build a good case for her. But when her friends on the show bring up the DUI, she just gets uber defensive, calls them out on things, says that, like, they will all know the truth soon. A la Shannon Bedore. You will all know the truth. Or all say the truth. But, so everyone was like, oh, okay. You have 8 charges against you. The officers said that, like, there were beer cans in your car, allegedly. Like, you definitely seem drunk. But we're like, let's just see, right? Like, what happens if Karen is saying, we'll all know the truth and we'll all see what's going on and justice will prevail, you know, all that stuff. So her trial started this week. Multiple witnesses, including an EMT and 2 police officers that were on site. They said that she refused treatment, appeared under the influence, and even cussed at them when they were trying to help her. We see body cam footage now. So, like, this all happened this week. Didn't sound like it was going good for Karen. Then it came out yesterday that she was found guilty on multiple charges, not all of them. I believe 5 out of the 8 charges. I saw one article that said 5 out of the 6 charges, but there were 8 charges in total, I believe, unless a couple got dismissed. I couldn't find that information out, but if you know, let me know. So she's found guilty on the majority of the charges and could face 2 years in prison, or in jail. Prison, jail, it's like, yeah. She could face 2 years in jail. Sentencing is in January. Now that it is over, body cam footage is now being released, and I'm sure you've seen it all over social media. It is rough to watch. She is clearly intoxicated. She can't look the officers in their eye. She's swaying. She's slurring her words. She's incoherent. They're trying to talk to her, and she is just in another world. It is really, really sad, and it's really surprising that nobody got hurt that night. That is the one thing that is a positive thing or positive aspect out of this, is that nobody was hurt. She wasn't hurt. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't kill herself. And after seeing this footage, it's like, oh my goodness. At one point, she's like telling the cop, like, F off, go F yourself. She refused to take a breathalyzer. she, I didn't see this part, but she's telling the female firefighter who was like on site, like, you're so pretty. Oh, you're so beautiful. And you know, if you've had a drunk night out with your besties, you know what that's like of like, I love you so much, blah, 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 right? The body cam footage that we are seeing, she's like, her husband's there on site and he's trying to get her not to talk to the cops too much, and she can't form a sentence. She is delayed on responding when she can respond to what the officers are asking her. We see car footage of her. She's in the front seat with the police officer. And I saw some comments online. They think that the police car that she was in didn't have like plexiglass. And they wanted allegedly like to make sure that Karen was okay and wouldn't hurt herself being in the back seat. So they put her in the front just so like the officer could keep an eye on her. But also, what if Karen had popped off on the police officer, you know? So she's telling the officer, like, do you know who I am? He's like, no. Well, like, I know your name. And she's like, well, I'm the Grand Dame, Andy Cohen. I mean, all of this is slurred, right? But Andy Cohen gave me that name. Yeah, they call me the Grand Dame. And it's like, oh my goodness, she's like trying to name drop herself. She's telling him that she's rich. There's another video of footage of her at the police station, and she's like telling the officer, like, you're white and like you're poor, and like I am Thomas Jefferson's concubine. Continues to say like, I'm rich. She is just, at one point she does even say like, I'm lit, like I'm drunk, like I am out of there. She was 3 sheets to the wind. It's just sad. You would hate to see her go to jail. But also, again, if it was just a regular person who wasn't on TV, they would probably be, like, you know, they would probably be sentenced to do some time. And, you know, Shannon Bedore also had a DUI on, she's on the Real Housewives of Orange County, and she handled hers a little differently. I think she's come onto the show and has been like, I am aware of what I've done. I am horrified by what I did. I am remorseful for it. Has the breathalyzer in the car, is doing like all the things that she was like sentenced to do. And it's just then seeing how Karen handled it on Potomac, like, oh, well, you're going to see what it was like. Like, it's not my fault. I didn't do anything wrong. And then you see this footage and she is obliterated. She is not okay. I don't know if I'm using obliterated correctly, but I feel like it's good in this sentence. I'm tired, y'all. But it's horrible at the end of the day, right? Yes, she gives us great TV. Yes, she has like made a name for herself in Potomac and on this show and things like that. But like at the end of the day, you don't do this. It is so unsafe. So her sentencing is set for the end of January. So we'll see what happens there. Alrighty. Melissa Gorga from the Real Housewives of New Jersey has come out with sprinkle cookies about 10 years too late. So this whole thing stems from season 3 of Real Housewives of New Jersey, where she brings over store-bought sprinkle cookies to her sister-in-law's house for Christmas Eve. Teresa is later on telling her group of friends, that she threw Melissa's sprinkle cookies in the garbage because her favorite cookies are pinoli cookies. Duh. And so she threw Melissa's away. So that became a thing on the show of Teresa throwing away the sprinkle cookies. So now, all of a sudden, Melissa has put out a sprinkle cookie line. She said she has been working on it for the past year and a half, was really trying to find a good bakery to partner with that would be able to make them and ship. And she found a bakery, she said, in upstate New York to work with. They are very fresh. They are made with real butter. They look good. I love a sprinkle cookie. Yes, it's a basic cookie, but if you can get it, yeah, like really buttery, like she was saying, and like a good amount of sprinkles that give you that little like tiny crunch when you bite into them on top, hell yeah, I'll go for a sprinkle cookie. Melissa is selling a box of 12 for $30 plus shipping. I might drunk order them over the holidays while I'm couch rotting. Who knows? Stay tuned. Or I said at the top of this episode I didn't want any presents. Family and friends, if you're listening, I will take a box of Melissa's sprinkle cookies, actually. But her sister-in-law, Teresa, who she is estranged from, will probably never speak to again, responded to all of this on Twitter saying, "You're welcome." And that's what we love about the housewives. We love a good catty, petty response. I'm a Melissa fan. She doesn't bother me. I can tolerate Melissa and Joe more than Teresa and her husband. I can't with them. It's rough to watch. I did enjoy Teresa when she was single and she was like getting back out there and like feeling herself again and like really living her life. I loved that era of Teresa 100%. Anywho, if you get the cookies, let me know what you think. And if I get them, I'll let you know what I think. Okay, speaking of Real Housewives of New Jersey, Bravo Daddy Andy has spoken out and said stop asking him about the New Jersey Housewives. We won't have an update for about a year. They are in no rush to make a decision, which I feel like there's something else underlying there, right? I think it's another good PR response, but I mean, there has to be just like contractual things out the wazoo. Also, it's not our fault that you guys flopped New Jersey so hard. You guys couldn't continue to put together a cast that could film together, and now you're telling us to stop asking you? How dare you, Andy? And just like what a letdown New Jersey has been the last couple of years. Like, it was just so great back in the day, but that happens with all of our Housewives shows. I will die on this hill. I say it in other episodes here. You can't top the OG seasons of the Housewives. Some of the best reality television before they all blew up. And their faces too. No, I'm just kidding. We're not face shaming. So everyone stop asking Andy about New Jersey, even though it's not our fault that it sucks. Okay. Erika Jayne is returning to Broadway in Chicago, playing Roxy Hart again. She was on it in 2020, but it got canceled because of COVID. Have you heard of it? COVID, not Chicago. But it's doing like a 3-week limited run. So she is going back to reprise her role as Roxy. Congratulations, Erika. Okay, Brandi Glanville. She was on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And famously was the transition scene from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills into Vanderpump Rules. If you know, you know. And if you don't, go check out my TikTok. I put a video up on it. Not me continuing to promote my social media like a true podcaster. Okay, Brandi's ex-husband, then husband at the time, had an affair with this girl named Sheena. Sheena got hired to work at SUR, which is owned by Lisa Vanderpump, who was on The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills with Brandi. They filmed this scene at SUR. Brandi and Sheena sitting down. Sheena saying, I had no idea he was married and had kids. How could you not? He was like kind of an actor, you know? Brandi is like, screw you, I don't care. Like, you ruined my relationship. You ruined my marriage. Eddie did go on, I think, to cheat again with Leanne Rimes, who he's still with, which is wild. So Brandi and Sheena end their convo at SUR, and Sheena walks from one of the dining rooms into the kitchen And then Vanderpump Rules starts, and stars were born that night, y'all. A bunch of chaotic, trashy stars were born that night. And our lives were changed ever since. But Brandi was on this show. Gorgeous, gorgeous girl. Was fun, talked a lot of shit, did some bad things. She actually slapped Lisa Vanderpump in one episode, which was hella wild. But at the end of the day, did make for good reality TV. She's had a lot of things going on. She was suing Bravo for just like ruining her life. Brandi has recently shared that something is going on with her face. It's very sunken. Her skin looks just not like it used to. She says that she has removed, she's got all her fillers dissolved. It's been about a year dealing with this. She spent about $70,000 trying to figure out what's going on with her. She says she'll feel like something moving inside of her face, like a parasite is what she thinks. So they think it's some sort of like parasite infection. But her like skin is sinking. She said sometimes like one side of her face will be swollen. Like she has no idea what's going on. Saying that it's been really hard for her to be out in public, especially around the holidays. Like there's so many Christmas parties, but she doesn't feel like going out to anything because of how she looks and how she feels. Even hard being around her kids. Terry Dubrow, who's a plastic surgeon, his wife's on The Real Housewives of Orange County, Heather Dubrow. He came out, paparazzi found him, quote unquote, found him. And talk about, he's like, I don't know what's going on with Brandi. He goes, I don't think it's a parasite infection, but like she needs a diagnosis. She needs to get checked out. He offered to help and like have a consultation with her to see if he can help figure out what's going on. He's like, but they need to figure this out immediately. If she's been dealing with a serious infection for almost a year, that's not going to be good to her body. So, hoping Brandi gets it figured out. I mean, it does not look good. And, yeah, you just don't want to see anyone have really bad health issues like that, you know? All right, let's end this Bravolebrity Breakdown with the Summer House trailer. It just came out yesterday, actually. So we get more costume parties, and I'm like, when will they ever run out of themes for these? Like, how do they just keep, like, making up these themes, you know? We get a little Carl Lindsay drama. As expected, they were literally engaged last year on this show. Now they're not. Lindsay is in a new relationship and just gave birth to a baby. And just gave birth. And Carl hasn't had sex in a year. So we learned that. Sounds like Carl was maybe texting somebody before they broke up. But they're like at a dinner and he's like, you know, Lindsay, like, I pray for you. I do pray for you. Shut up, Carl. And Lindsay's like, I don't need you to pray for me, dude. Like, I'm good. Obviously, I'm good. I'm pregnant. I'm in a great relationship. Like, step off. Jesse Solomon seems to be flirting with the new girl, Lexi, who's in the house, and possibly Sierra at the same time. So then we see a little Lexi-Sierra drama happening. New guy, Emerald, seems like a douche right off the bat. Already not a fan. And it seems like, so Amanda, who's on the show, had come out at Bravo Fan Fest in Miami and said that there is a threesome that happens this season in the house. And no, it is not her and her man-child husband, Kyle. So I'm thinking it's Emerald, because in the promo or in the trailer, he's like, oh yeah, I had sex with like 2 girls last night. So like, I think Emerald's the one who has the threesome. Shocker. Hoping he's just a 1-season wonder. We get some Paige and Craig drama, which they are still together currently. They just spent Thanksgiving together. Craig was on Watch What Happens Live this week saying like he knows Paige is independent and works really hard, because they're always getting questioned. Like, he wants to settle down and have kids. He lives in Charleston. Paige lives in New York. She is killing it in the podcast game. Paige is doing her thing in New York and she does not want to move to Charleston. Craig wants to settle down and have kids. What do they do? He says, like, he tells her, like, you can't choose work all the time, Paige. And she's like, well, I'm sorry that I am a strong and an independent woman. And then she's crying to Sierra, you know, like, that if they break up, she's just, like, really going to lose a lot. And, you know, she just doesn't want to break up with him. I am a Paige and Craig fan, but I think there eventually has to be compromise in a relationship in order for it to be successful. There has to be. It can't just be one person's way the entire time, or resentment is going to build and then it's just going to come to a head at some point and won't be good. I'm not saying who should be the one to compromise, but compromise has to happen at some point. Whether that is Craig moving up to New York to be with Paige. I don't know. I like them both, but like also I'm getting a little over the drama of it all. Just like I'm getting over the relationship drama with Kyle and Amanda. If we get more of it on this season, like Amanda, if you're not happy, don't stay with him. Don't stay with him just because you're on a show and just because you guys have a business together that he like begged you to quit your job for and be a part of. It's kind of like that isolation of like, quit your job and work with me, and then like we're gonna rely on each other. We're like partners, you know? I don't want Paige and Craig to become Kyle and Amanda. I don't think they will in like the misery part of the relationship. I just don't want it to be the same drama that you're fighting about with no resolution or no movement forward. Honestly, I would love if Paige and Craig were like already engaged and like we just didn't know and they were just like giving us shit. I think that'd be great if that's what they both want. We know he wants it. It's just, you know, I don't know. It's we'll see how it plays out, right? We see a little bit of Craig and Kyle because Kyle keeps talking shit about Craig because they have dueling seltzer companies now that Craig's an investor of Spritz Society. Kyle's just like an immature little dude who like doesn't know how to shut his mouth and like be nice and professional. Can you tell I'm a Kyle fan? I'm not. Paige gives us the best line of the trailer. We see a clip of Kyle DJing and Amanda kind of like swaying back and forth behind the DJ booth. And Paige is telling Sierra, like, the only reason I'm here is to keep Amanda company while her husband pretends to be Diplo. You guys know if you listened like, I don't know, a couple months ago. Maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't remember. Who knows? I hate an older man trying to become a DJ. Also, Kyle just annoys me, so it's like double haterade for me. I think, yes, people should follow their dreams at whatever age they are, but like also grow with your partner. Amanda has talked about like how she wants to have a family, and we don't know what that is looking like for them at this moment. She wants to have a house and like move out to New Jersey to be closer to her family. And then Kyle just continues to do things for him. And I think it's annoying. I'm not a fan of him. I don't think it's cute anymore. My opinion. Anywho, that's what I got from the Summer House trailer. I hope it's good. I don't have high hopes. Like, the trailer looks good, but it was just such an intense season last season with Carl and Lindsay breaking up, and then Carl and Lindsay relationship drama basically the entire season. Then cameras picking back up to see them break up. And then we get the iconic Paige is a witch moment of her telling Lindsay, like, who knows where you're going to be in a year. By next year, you could be in a great relationship and, like, you could have the family that you've always wanted. And bam, here we are a year later. Lindsay gave birth and she's in a happy relationship. So, Paige the witch, I hope she gives us more witchiness. I just don't, like, our seasons go up and down, right? Like, who knows? As long as it's, like, light and fun and silly, we'll all be good here in the wonderful garbage world. But Summer House premieres February 12th. We have a little less than 2 months. How exciting. Alrighty, y'all, that is the end of this week's Pop Culture Recap and Bravolebrity Breakdown, the last episode for the year. Next week, it's going to be just a pop culture recap of this year, your favorite moments, most shocking moments, moments that made you cry, moments that made you laugh. Like I said, follow me on Instagram because I'm going to be asking you guys for your favorite moments from 2024. Other than me starting this podcast. I know. Okay, I gotta go. I'm getting the Lulu. That's all the garbage talk for now. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Tell everybody. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, or X. TikTok, hopefully we have it for a little bit longer. But anywho, I appreciate you guys. I hope you have a great week. I hope this got your mind off whatever you're doing. Unless you're doing something that's like you have to be really safe and focused, then turn this shit off. All right, y'all. Merry Christmas, because I won't put the next episode out until next Friday. So like, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy anything that you celebrate, or if you don't celebrate at all, I love that for you too. I hope you are able to take some time off if you're able to, or if you're not, I hope you're able to be happy in your life however you can. What a year this was. This is like fun and cool. But I appreciate you guys for listening. Until next time.